Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Canadian Passive Investing Show. I'm your host, 𝗖𝗣𝗶 𝗖𝗽, and I'm joined by my co-host, 𝗖𝗪𝗓 Biniaz. Today, we have another great show for you. Please like and subscribe as it helps us build our channel and allows us to keep bringing you great content and expert guest speakers. Our mission is to empower investors to earn passive income through real estate investing. So we're really excited because today we're joined by Dr. Kiet Tran. Dr. Tran is an emergency family medicine and long-term care physician with over 20 years of clinical experience in Canada. He has a vast clinical knowledge that allows him to be versatile and creative. He holds a master's degree, focused in education, and a Master of Business Administration, an MBA. He is a serial entrepreneur with ventures in the healthcare, medical, pharmaceutical, and financial industries. He also holds the designation of ICD.D Corporate Director. His passion for long life learning is unsurpassed and is the reason for his drive. He is a business and financial mentor and consultant for anyone who needs the help, which we love that, and we can't wait to dive into that. So we believe that this interview with Dr. Tran will bring tremendous value to physicians and other busy professionals looking to make smart investments to create more time to live the life of their dreams. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Tran. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. And please just call me Vu.
Sounds great.
We'll do that. And then you're so focused, 𝗖𝗑, on real estate that even though it said investments, you right away said real estate investments. So it's more broad
it's
than
my mind that's going
real
there.
Definitely.
So Vu, if you could please maybe just start off by telling us a bit about your background and particularly when your interest in personal finance and financial literacy began.
Very well. Yeah. So I'm from Montreal. So did all my schooling in French during the Bill 101 era. And so as an immigrant family, if we had nobody who was English speaking, we went to French school. So I did all my studies in French all the way up to university and into med school. And after that, I came to Toronto, moved to Toronto and started practicing as a family doctor and an emergency doctor. In the last 5 years, been also fell into long-term care. It hurt a bit earlier initially, but it hurts less now. And so where my journey began in financial literacy. So in my podcast, I talk about that in my first podcast. It stems from really ignorance and anger. So I explain what that means. As a physician, I was absolutely and totally ignorant about financial literacy. I figured I was the only one. And so the story is that, I started practicing when I was 26. So I was quite young when I started practicing. Wow. And like any physician, I knew a lot about medicine and nothing about anything else. And so as I was starting to practice, I went to my bank and went to chat with a banker, and we became friends really, really early on. And he does what he does. He says, Vu, what are you? What do you do? And how do you invest? I'm like, I have no clue. Like, you tell me. And so we did the KYC, know your client, and it's not surprising. I came out as conservative type of person. So I was put in a conservative type of investment and never thought about it, never really once went back and chat. I mean, from time to time I would meet him, but, never seriously until maybe about 8 years ago, I would say 8 years ago, about 13 years into my practice, I went back to him and say, hey, how are we doing? What's my portfolio look like? Where are we? And lo and behold, Vu, you're doing pretty good since inception. You've been, you did a 1 point something percent rate of return. I'm like, 1 point something. I'm like, are you kidding me? And my jaw dropped. Yeah. And at that point, I was angry, but not at him. He does what he needs to do. And I was angry at myself. I'm like, what just happened there? I just lost 13 years of investing and properly doing things right. So I got really angry at myself. And that's when I realized, oh my God, how can you be so ignorant? And so I started on a journey of learning and learning all over again, because I was working literally like every single healthcare professional in Canada. We were working long hours. Just to give you an example of how long I was working. So I do my family practice in the morning, 9 to 5. I would drive down to Toronto, go do my emerge shift from 6 until midnight, and then I would go back to sleep. And then at 5 in the morning, I would wake up and go do my family practice again. All that while I was doing my MBA, while I was doing my MHSC. And then after that, I did my long-term care. And so I wake up at 5 in the morning, go for 6 o'clock. I would finish at noon, go to my family practice at 1, finish at 6 p.m., and then go to my shift at 6 until midnight. And sometimes I would have to do overnight shifts. So I'd start my overnight shift at midnight, finish at 8 a.m., drive to my family practice to start working at 9,
Wow.
right? So those were the type of hours that I was doing. And to be honest, I'm not alone. A lot of us do that. But the reason I'm telling you the story is because we do that just simply because we are committed to our craft and to our profession. But we work crazy hours and we work long hours, but we don't know how to manage our money. So we make all this money and all of it just disappears in the air and ether without us really thinking twice about it. And so that's when I realized I no longer can be ignorant, because I'm doing all these hours, making these amount of money, but I have nothing to show for it. And that's when I realized, no, that has to be the end. And in speaking with other physicians, and by all means, I'm not saying we're all the same, but I would say that, most physicians are not very good with money management. And there's a reason. Medicine is a science that evolves very quickly. I mean, just take COVID as an example. Between the time COVID started and now, we have vaccines and we have, the science moves just so fast that when you go to med school and you have to learn about things from 2000 years ago until now, you can imagine all the science and all the literature that needs to be acquired during these 4 or 5 years. There is really no time to learn about practice management. There's really no time to learn about finances. And so we're very good in medicine, and in Canada, we're very well trained. And because we're good in medicine, we're good at our craft, we can't be good at everything else. And one of those areas that we're not good at is financial literacy. And so when I realized that I'm not alone, that's when I made it sort of a self journey, self mission to make sure that my colleagues don't go through what I went through. I'm very focused on education. So that's why I've taken the route of education for my peers. I don't have a license to sell. I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell stocks. I don't sell ETFs. I'm here really to educate. And who needs the education? Well, the brand new grads. I think the brand new grads absolutely need it, because I've been doing this for 20 something years. My colleagues have been doing this for 30, 40 years. And I'm still in the same rut. And so if I'm in the same rut and I've been learning my colleagues from 30, 40 years experience, something's wrong. Something's not working. And so we have to change this paradigm, right? Sure. So for me, it's crucial that I help the young colleagues change the paradigm. Otherwise, they'll be burnout. They'll be burnout really, really fast.
Absolutely. No, great points you made. Now there seems to be somewhat of a taboo in the medical industry about financial and investing and the whole concept of financial literacy. Talk to us about that and why such taboo exists. In every other industry, you want to scale, make smart investments. Why is it that within your space that is taboo to be a smart investor or make smart investments?
Great question. And that's the beginning of my podcast. If you think about it, really deeply, in the healthcare industry, we're talking about physicians, we're talking about dentists, we're talking about nurses. These are all people with some sort of aspiration to help others, right? We are in the business of helping others. So in essence, it is an industry that is focused on altruism. And so when you think about altruism, you can't really think about, well, what about myself? What about me being financially secure, me being financially wealthy, or me having financial security in that environment, in that space? It's almost a religion in medicine that we can't talk about money, because if I talk about money or talk about money management, well, it's about myself, it's about 𝗼. But our profession is not about us, it's about other people. And so it has been, very much ingrained in us that we can't talk about ourselves. It's a taboo topic, because everything we talk about is about our patients. It's about society. It's about the greater good of society and humankind, which, as a physician, I'm 100% agreeable to that. But it's not one or the other. It could be both. We could talk about society, we could talk about other people, but yet still talk about myself as well, because I'm human. I take this, analogy. If you cut me, I will bleed like just everybody else. And so why can't I talk about myself? And that's something that I've learned very difficultly over the years when I speak with colleagues is, no, we can't talk about this. We can't talk about this. And yet, in every lunchroom, around every single cooler, they'll always talk about, hey, what's the next stock we should buy?
Oh,
Hey, what about life insurance? What do you know about that? But yet we have to keep it silent. We can't talk really loud about it.
yeah, that's
But
very,
but everybody talks about it. You,
but
you
every,
you just can't be talking about it.
right,
Yes, yes.
right.
And just on your
Yeah.
altruistic comment, and not putting my total capitalist hat on here, is if you do have access to more capital, you could do more for others, especially somebody like a doctor. If they have made smart investments, now they could give back, or make what is it called, donating to charities or what have you. So it allows for that freedom as well to exist. Whereas if you're middle-aged doctor and now you're trying to figure out your finances because you were so focused on your craft, it doesn't allow for that freedom to take place and that step to take
Definitely.
place.
Absolutely. I think you make a great point, and thank you very much for making it, because a lot of us don't understand that. And so, as you were saying, just because I have more money doesn't mean I have to spend it. I can donate it. I can use that money to buy back time, and do something people don't understand. You can actually make money, use money to buy back the time. And so what would I buy back the time for? Well, I want to do things that I want to do. For example, I want to volunteer. I want to work at the soup kitchen. I want to take a 6 month sabbatical to go to Ethiopia and help on a mission. Like, there's a whole things I can do with that money. People think that just because I have money, I have to go buy a Ferrari, right? Or I have to go buy a Maserati. Absolutely not. Money is just a tool to help you buy some discretionary time. And that's all it is. It's a tool.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, very well said. I really like that. And Vu, as we all know, as doctors are very busy individuals, how do you plan to help doctors to gain that financial knowledge when it just, when they 100% don't have the time to do so, as you were just mentioning? So how do you convince them, if you will, to start the learning of the financial literacy?
Well, I've always learned that if you want to convince someone and influence someone's decision, always start with why. Why are you doing it? I'm not doing it. I'm educating you. I already know it. I don't need to tell you. I already know it. So the question is, why should you know it? What's in it for you, right? So always start with the why. And so as I'm talking in my podcast and speaking to people and coaching them, it's always about, what is your why? Why do you want to do it? Unless you understand why you want to do it, you're not going to put your mind to it. Now, if I look at the current scenario in Canada and forget about COVID for a minute, even prior to COVID, if you look at the literature, 2018, 2019, there's a few studies that came out that doctors in Canada are burnt out. And this is not a Canadian thing. This is across the world, in the US, across Europe. The Canadian studies show that across Canada, 40% of all physicians, family doctors, specialists, surgeons, 40% of doctors are burnt out. Now, you now add COVID to that, you can imagine how high that would be. Now, there was another study that came out in 2019, pre-COVID, that looked at physicians, emergency physicians, which I am. And the survey found that 87% of all emergency doctors in Canada, and I'm not talking about US, I'm talking about Canada, pre-COVID, 87% of emergency doctors meet at least one criteria of burnout on the Mesh-Less scale. Now, you think about that, you walk into an emergency department, 9 out of 10 doctors are burnt out. How sustainable is that? It's not sustainable in the first place. But two, if you're talking to someone who's burnt out, a doctor who's burnt out, how good of a care do you think that is? Right? It's bad for society, it's bad for patient care. So regardless of the financial aspect, burnout is bad for patient care. That's number one. Now, it is my belief that one of the tools to mitigate and to solve burnout is to give people back their time, right? My example of, you know, how fast, how hard, how long I've been running on this treadmill. Well, if I had some time where I don't have to run as fast, run as hard, run as long on this treadmill to gain that next paycheck, well, now I can have time to learn how to draw, learn how to play the guitar. I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. Now, if I have time to go learn how to play the guitar, maybe that will help me in my journey of burnout, right? Or I could now take 3 months to go and help in Haiti, you know, whatever, or go do some other things that I wanted to do for myself to re-energize. And we don't take that for ourselves. We've never learned to do that for ourselves. But let's be realistic. We live in this world. We live on Earth. Everything needs money. Let's not hide it. Money is a tool. That's all it is. And I need that tool to pay my food, to pay my mortgage, to pay my electricity, to send my kids to school for daycare. I need that tool. So we can't really talk about life without talking about money. But money is a taboo subject, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have to stop that. We have to stop saying money is a taboo subject, because all it is, money is a tool. Mm-hmm. So helping people understand their own why, then they can understand why they need to learn. So that's how I get them to understand why they need it. And then the next thing is understand that financial literacy is not about investing, is not about buying which stock, is about easy concepts. For example, something that you guys talk about a lot, don't spend more than you make, right? When you make the money, use that tool wisely. The money that I make, the tool that I got, I spend my life energy getting it, right? I work 24 hours, I work 8 days, 9 days a week, and I spend my life energy in return for a paycheck, in return for a dollar bill, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. I've exchanged my life energy for that. I want to use it wisely. Now, is it buying a Ferrari wise? Is it buying a Gucci bag wise when I have to save for the future, when I have to pay for the house, when I have to, maybe I need to get a vacation just so that I stay sane so that I can continue working. That's a well-spent dollar. Mm-hmm. And so teaching people the basic concepts of financial literacy, don't spend more than you make. What is opportunity cost? What is time horizon? What is risk capacity? What is risk tolerance? What is compounded interest? You know, all those things are not hard. It doesn't take a PhD to understand that. So those are easy concepts. And then finally, the last thing that I want to ask people to understand is not everybody's in the same boat. And some people are middle class, some people are lower class, and some people are higher class in terms of how much they make. And I'm not going to talk about class, but I'm just going to talk about income. So are physicians in a lower income bracket? You and I know that's not true. We're in a high income bracket. So is our strategy in terms of money security and financial security the same as someone who's in a middle income? I don't think so. And so it's trying to relearn and unlearn what we learned before. And so if we learn that, well, I can't use a credit card. Everybody says, Dave Ramsey says, can't use a credit card. Well, wait a minute. Does that apply to you? Or does that apply to Dave Ramsey's population? And we understand this in medicine, right? We do a study and we will argue till we're blue about the study and who it applies to. And this study doesn't apply to this population. It doesn't apply to diabetics, and it doesn't apply to people with, kidney failure. We understand that. But yet we take things out in the world and we say, oh, well, can't use credit card. Well, wait a minute. Does it even apply to you? Have you even thought about it, that maybe credit card does apply to you and that you should use credit card? So the concepts that I teach people is take a deeper dive and understand, are you looking at the right population? Are you taking the right concept and applying it to yourself? And what are the basic concepts that needs to be understood? And these are not difficult things. These are not, it took me 5 years to understand that and much more sophisticated stuff. But if we want to just learn the basics, it doesn't take that much. And can someone manage their money properly, securely, safely, just by understanding the basic concepts? Absolutely. With the help of who? With the help of a team, right? I'm a doctor. I still practice medicine. I still go to work to care for patients. I'm not sitting in front of a computer looking at candles going up and down, and I'm not looking at the market. I need to understand some of it, but I'm not looking at the market. So I do need a team. I need an accountant. I need a lawyer. I need a financial planner. I need a financial advisor. When the financial advisor is talking to me, I need to know and I need to understand what he's talking about. I say to people all the time, if you give control and you give all control, you relinquish control, you lose control, right? So if I say to my advisor, here, take my money, do something with it, and you understand nothing of it, well, you end up like me, right? 13 years later with 1.3% rate of return, right? And so you have to understand what people are saying. And in medicine, we understand that too. It's funny, but in medicine, we understand that, but we can't translate that to finance. So when I see a patient who's a diabetic patient, and I say, hey, your A1C is above norm. Here's what you need to do. Cut this, cut that, exercise, do this, stop smoking, etc. The patient who's educated on diabetes, they understand what it means. They understand what they need to do to stay healthy. They are more likely to follow my instructions because they understand the end game, right? When I say exercise, they'll, oh, I get it. I know why. Yeah. When I say take this pill, oh yeah, I get it. I know why. They may not understand everything in the literature, but they understand why they need to take this little red pill because they understand, where we're going, what's the end game. So we want patients to be well educated. We want to educate them. It works very well for diabetes. It works very well for COPD. It works very well for asthma, and it works very well for heart failure. So we understand that concept in medicine. Mm-hmm. But when we ask ourselves to understand finance, no, it's too complicated. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Now let me ask you about time management, because at times I've talked to people as a joke about exercising, that, oh, I don't have time for exercising. Yes. I'm like, it's an hour a day. If Barack Obama, President of the United States, had an hour a day to exercise, you can do it too. Or if Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, has an hour a day to exercise, you can do it too. Is time management an important concept you try to kind of instill in your mentees as well, about this concept of, hey, you can have enough time to kind of educate yourself in financial literacy?
Absolutely. And I've taken 5 years of my life to understand this. And people say, where do you find time? Mm-hmm. It's time management. It's all about time management. It's also about priorities, about setting priorities, right? What are my priorities? My priorities is I need to go to work. I need to keep myself healthy. I need to spend time with my kids. I need to spend time with my significant other. And I need to learn this, as an example. Okay. So how much time do I dedicate to each, and what are my priorities? Everything else is noise. Everything is noise. And this is what I've learned in leadership classes. You put the big pebbles in the jar first. The big pebbles is what's important to you. Those are your priority. And then you fill the rest with sand. But if you fill the rest with sand, which is the non-priority stuff, there is no room for the big pebbles. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I've learned in leadership courses, you need to say no. Because if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And if you say yes to this, well, you're saying no to exercise. Well, you're saying no to spending time with your kids. Well, you're saying no to spending time with your significant other. So it's very important to understand to say no. And this comes from our ingrained training, right? We are a bunch of people who want to help. You ask for my help, I will say yes, because I'm here to help. But sometimes it's not healthy for ourselves. And so we need to learn how to be healthy for ourselves. And one of those healthy things is learning to say no. And very difficult to do.
Very difficult to do.
But
I'm learning that right now
for sure.
in my
Absolutely.
process.
For me
too,
to jump in here
that.
before I lose track of a thought about a point that Dr. Tran made about this, the concept of getting overwhelmed, or you had a name for it, is like when doctors have too much to do, burnout. So the issue with burnout is not only that a doctor can get overwhelmed and they can't do their job properly, but it is also a concern where, as we can see in developed countries, where there's a brain drain happening, where lots of well-educated people are leaving those countries to come to the West. That concern exists here in Canada as well, with many of our very top doctors, losing them to the US in some cases, because there is somewhat of a movement where doctors are moving to the US from Canada. So that concern also exists there, is also as far as higher taxes that exist here in Canada and lower incomes for doctors. So the doctors that we have, we need to cherish them, and financial literacy is very important, because we don't want them to lose them to the US. So that was just a point on top of my head I wanted to bring up.
Thank you for making that point. And it's not just about losing physically the person. You can also lose that person mentally, right? Yes. I may go to work every day, but my mind is not there, right? I am so burnt out. I'm so tired. I'm so fatigued. I've lost compassion. I've lost empathy. I'm there physically, but I don't understand you. I don't get you. And so I may be there just, like a zombie working away, but I'm not really caring for you, because I no longer have the compassion. I no longer have the empathy. So you can lose people that way too, even though they're there physically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right, so on to our next question, Vu. What does the perfect physician portfolio for you look like? Do you believe in the 60-40 rule, where it's 60% allocated to stocks and 40% allocated to bonds? Or are you more open to other asset classes like real estate?
I am open to other asset classes. In my mind, there is no perfect portfolio mix, whether it's 60-40, 70-30, 80-20. For me, it's not about that. So for me, is about trying to provide a safety net. When I talk about financial security in my podcast, I tell people it's not about hitting that home run. As I mentioned earlier today, physicians are definitely in the higher of the income. And the nice thing about it is that we make a stable income, right? We're not really fearful about tomorrow. So we make a stable income. So do I really need to hit that home run? I don't. I just need to make sure that I'm able to pay what I need to pay, that I'm able to do it in a way that is safe, that I'm able to do it in a way that I don't burn out. So how do I make it as safe as possible? Well, I need to diversify. And that's the key word, diversify, but diversify in all aspects of financial planning. And so not just investment. So we were talking about the 60-40, well, we're talking about investment here. Mm-hmm. What I mean about diversifying is I talk about financial security. So even in investment, I'm going to talk very quickly about investment. Well, as you mentioned, there's stock, bonds, and ETFs and mutual funds, right? Those are the common things. But you rightfully pointed out, there are other things. There's real estate. There's active real estate, and there is passive real estate.
Yes.
Right? And so those should be accounted for. There are other private investments, alternative investments that are not correlated to the market. The market dropped by 30%. Tomorrow, I just lost 30%. What are different tools that I can use to not lose 30%? Again, I want to play it safe because I don't need to hit that home run. I need to make sure that I'm safe in the long run. And other things that are also in my diversification is insurance products. So I talk a lot about insurance products because it's an asset class that people don't truly understand. People understand insurance as life insurance, and in fact, it's called death insurance. Because the way they understand it, they only get the money, or their estate gets the money when they die. That's death insurance, and that's term insurance. But there are other type of insurances that you can leverage while you're still alive. And there are different tax benefits of other type of insurances. And so when people talk about the insurance, they don't really understand the full spectrum of all insurance products. And so when I talk to my mentees, I talk about diversification, I talk about everything and anything that provides that safety. And some of those safety has nothing to do with ETF bonds and stocks. And so I don't believe in the 60-40, I don't believe in the 70-30, I don't believe in the 80-20. I actually use a lot of alternative products, similar to what you guys are doing.
Awesome. Yeah, and for me to jump in here, Ava. So yeah, historically, and doctors are very well known to invest in real estate because it's a safe investment, it's tangible, and I believe there's some benefits as well when it comes to mortgages for real estate. So conventional real estate purchases, but there is some concern there when too many properties are purchased now, that line between being a passive investor and active investor changes, and the product that we have, the passive real estate investing, which allows investors to invest passively. Just wanted to get your perspective on it. What is your mindset when it comes to these passive real estate investment options, or these product where doctor investors or other investors could come in, invest passively as limited partners, have limited liability, but also take majority of the profits, because usually these profit splits are 70-30 in average. In our cases, it is 70-30 with 70% to the investor. What is your mindset? Have you seen these products before? And kind of talk to us briefly about that, if you may.
I love passive investment. I already am very active. Like I work a lot. I don't need to have a 5th, 7th, and 8th career. I really don't. And so if I can, the treadmill that I'm running on, I make $1 and I use that dollar and I use 50 cents to pay for my electricity and for my mortgage, and now I have 50 cents left. I don't want to use that 50 cents for another career. I want to use that 50 cents so that I can invest something while I'm sleeping. Yeah. And that for me is perfect because 1, I don't have the time to learn another career. But 2, I may not want to because I want to go and do missionary work in some other place. It's not for me to go learn a different career. Otherwise, I'll do yours, right? So no, I don't want that. I want something passive. And for me, real estate, it depends on people, right? Depends on people's aspiration, philosophy in life, and hobbies. I, on one hand, love real estate, as you mentioned, and people love real estate. So doctors are humans, so doctors love real estate. We can invest in real estate in a very active way, very active management, and I can also invest in very passive way. And so for me, it's just another way to diversify my portfolio. And I have absolutely nothing against doing both. In fact, we should do both. And having someone like you guys, expert, to say, Vu, here's what we do. You invest with us. Here's the return. Here's the risk. Understand. Absolutely. Here's what I do. I own 1 condo, 2 condo. I own a building. I manage that. It's taking too much of my time here. I'm putting my money, I get a certain return. Well, it's analyzing that risk return ratio. And as long as I'm comfortable with that and understand the risk, I see no reason why people should not. And in fact, I tell people they should, as much as they can diversify their portfolio.
Incredible. And I love what he said, build wealth while you sleep.
Yes.
It's my favorite. And why don't we go ahead and discuss your podcast? It's How is My Financial Health, Doc? How did the idea come about? And talk to us about the process about building a thought leadership platform to help others, please.
Well, my whole focus in my life was really focused on education, and maybe I'm a physician educator at heart. And so during the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, I've had this idea of sharing my knowledge for a long time and did not know how to do it. And I wanted to do courses and offer courses, but that's a bit more challenging, more complicated. And when COVID hit, it wasn't possible, right? And I've been thinking about podcasts. I'm like, oh, podcast seems really good. How do I do it? And I was afraid because I didn't know. And so what I did is I asked a friend, say, what should I do? Like, how do we do podcasts? Oh, don't worry, I'll do your podcast. So all I did was I started recording, and then he managed the whole thing.
Wow.
He edited the whole thing. And then after that was done, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I never thought I'd be a podcaster. And so after he did that, I'm saying, hey, teach me how to do that. So he taught me how to do that, and I do it on GarageBand, which is very simple to use, but there's so many other platforms. And as I was doing, I was having fun. I'm like, I'm editing this, putting music here, cutting this, cutting that. I didn't like the way he said this, so I cut that out. And so as I was doing, I'm like, I'm having a lot of fun with this. But at the same time, it was a way for me to reach people outside of the GTA. Because even if I did, courses and classes, it's only people in the GTA who can benefit. Whereas right now, I got people in Calgary listening to it. I got people in the US listening to it. I got a few buddies in Australia listening to it. I'm hopefully that people all across the globe will listen to it. But that's the reach that this type of platform has. And for me, it's really about educating. And I try to, in my podcast, to deal with things that are more I would say the basics of understanding, right? Sometimes I'll delve into the sophisticated, but I always make sure that I, quote unquote, pardon my language, dumb it down. Because I have spoken to a lot of financial people, and when they talk, I just look at them, I'm like, I have no clue what you just said.
Yeah.
But yeah. Because I don't want to feel embarrassed, right?
Yes.
I don't want to appear ignorant. Yeah, great. And a lot of my colleagues are like that. They'll listen to people talk and they'll just nod, like our patients will nod and have no understanding. And so in medicine, we talk about dumbing it down, but we talk about speaking in grade 6 language. So when I talk to my patients and I talk about their LDL and their A1C and the Framingham score of 12%, they're going to have a CVD risk of X percentage in 10 years, they'll just look at me and say, and then they have no clue what I just said, right? So I need to put it in language that they understand. And that's the purpose of the podcast. The purpose of the podcast is to take the financial jargon that people use all day long and bring it down to a grade 6 level that is consumable by physicians. Because there's one thing that I've learned in speaking with colleagues is that we're very smart people, but in only one area, right? In the other area, let's admit it, we're ignorant. And those of us who don't admit it, well, they'll get into trouble. And if we admit that we're very good in this area, but not very good in that, and the earlier we admit that, the earlier we learn. And the earlier we will progress.
That's
great.
incredible.
We hope you lots of success. Approximately 90,000 doctors across Canada. So we hope they tune in and listen to all your wisdom. Really appreciate it. And this brings us to the next segment of our show.
This is we love to have fun with our guests on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and start asking you questions, whatever comes top of mind. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say. It's the 10 championship rounds to financial freedom. So let's get started. Who is the most influential person in your life?
My father.
Amazing. What was the #1 book you recommend? What is the #1 book you'd recommend?
Freakonomics, the first one.
Okay. All right. If you had the opportunity to travel back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Drink more milk.
Nice.
I'm very short. I'm very short. And as I was younger, coming from an Asian family, we're not used to milk. And I really didn't like the taste of milk. And now as an adult, I feel like, oh, I should have grown a few more inches. So drink more milk.
Well, I was expecting him to say eat more apples, but that's fine. You know.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away. What is the best investment you've ever made?
My insurance policy.
Okay. What's the worst investment you've ever made?
Those mutual funds with that bank.
Oh, okay. Now, I like this one. How much would you need in the bank to retire today? What's your number?
Oh, that's $1 million question. I think I'd be happy with $1 million in the bank today. I think I'd be happy. More than enough.
If you could have dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be?
I would have dinner with probably Michael Jordan.
Nice. Now, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing now?
Oh my God, I would be a chef.
Oh, nice. That's a cool one. Book smarts or street smarts?
A little bit of both.
Nice. Last question, Vu. If you had $1 million cash and you had to make one investment today, what would it be?
I would invest in real estate.
Woohoo! That's a wrap.
Great.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Vu. We really appreciated all your knowledge today.
Definitely. No, absolutely. And especially with how busy doctors are and how busy you are, we really appreciate you took the time coming on our show and, sending your wisdom to many people watching around Canada here. So
bring a lot of value to everyone. So if you could just go ahead and what's the best way that people can reach you?
Well, they can reach me on my website at financialhealthdoc.com, or they can reach me directly on my email, hmfhd2020@gmail.com. I really want to thank both of you for giving me this time. And, August, Ava, to be honest, as I said, it's all a question about priorities, right? And so as busy as my schedule is and as busy as your schedule is, we all found a time to connect. And so thank you very much. We make priorities on things that we find useful to us, that we can help others. And I find that your YouTube channel and the things that you do as education is very helpful. So for me, it was a priority to do. And so I want to thank you for doing that. But I also want to thank you for taking time to allow me to share my stories.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vu.